Let's talk about media bias. Say you go to the New York Times. Type in Generation X. When that page loads, you'll see that you have 15,141 results on the topic. Go back. Same day, same New York Times, Generation Y. And you'll see there are 25,704 results. I, for one, am not surprised. From constant coverage of how we impacted the 2016 election, first on how to gain our vote, then on how we use them, I've noticed that there's speculation on our advanced use of technology, critique on our social activism, and expression of fear from our partying and hookup culture. The media has had its cameras fixed on what's been called the Millennial generation for a while now. My generation. But the critique doesn't end there. Several members of our generation, too, are disappointed with where we've ended up.
Well, as a millennial, I took it upon myself to try to evaluate what's so wrong with our generation and why they're so mad at us. And then I pretty much realized that we're just existing. We're not really contributing anything to society.
I'm going to go ahead and pause her there. I figured it'd be easier to show you her quick points and show you how they're directly correlated with what the media pushes about our generation.
Our idea of standing up for something we believe in means going on Facebook and posting a status with your opinion. We don't respect our elders. We don't even respect our country. We listen to really obscene music that degrades women and pretty much glorifies drugs and crime. We're more divided as a country than ever before, and I think our generation actually has a lot to do with that. We're lazy. We're really entitled.
I'm a millennial and my generation sucks. It just talks about how the millennials don't get off the couch very often.
They don't. It's actually, I wrote another piece for the Post not long ago about millennials being the shut-in generation. I interviewed several who will spend whole weekends at home very proudly just binge watching Orange is the New Black.
Or doing a Snapchat.
Or doing a Snapchat.
I think you get it. The volume of discourse is overwhelming. I have to ask myself, is the media portrayal valid? And more importantly, why does the media portray us in this negative light? To answer these questions, I invited some of my friends to sit down with me to talk it out. This is Millennial, a documentary. So, how do you think the media portrays our generation?
Lazy, technology addicted, and really easy to influence, I think would be the big three.
They think that our generation is full of potential that we're not going to live up to. And they blame things like social media for killing our attention spans and just the large number of causes that we come in contact with. They think that kind of diverts our attention away from focusing on solving bigger societal problems, because everyone's hashtag stop coding 2012, but whatever comes with all of these different things.
That we're living a fun life. They portray us like we're in the 20s and it's a great time.
Speaking specifically from a Black female, I only see one type of individual in the news who represents my demographic, and that is males, delinquents, Black males who are killing people, raping people, stealing things from people. They are destructive and viral.
I'd say overall they kind of portray us as entitled or snobby or lazy, but again, that's just the stuff that gets the readers or viewers watching, because the viewers are mostly probably older people.
And Rohan is not wrong. A Pew Research Center survey conducted in 2012 said that the average nighttime news viewer was 53 years old. The study also concluded that more than half of the viewers of the broadcast and cable news media as a whole were above 50. Where do the young people get their news? From satirical broadcasts like The Daily Show, and, of course, social media. In 2015, the American Press Institute released a survey concerning millennial news consumption. The article concluded that a majority of millennials turn to social media for news. One's social media is heavily aligned through algorithm and friend and follower selections with one's political beliefs. Unless one is truly neutral, their social media will not be unbiased. In my interview with James, he himself admits that he curates his social media to fit his views.
It's going to detract from it at all. If anything, I think it enhances it because it's easier to find like-minded people that like agree with the same things that you push. And if like you use these tools properly, you can build like your own network to like accomplish these trends.
There was this huge trend, at least with the last like 2 or 3 big things, of posting these huge political arguments on Facebook. And I know that's a pretty big generational stereotype of just a kid yelling into his digital void, and the whole stereotypes about the liberal bubble on social media. I generally don't engage in that all that much. I'll read the posts, but I don't post my own, and I certainly don't comment.
Liberal news consumption bias, or the bubble, is real, just as conservative bias is real. Check out 2 broadcasts concerning millennials and the economy and try to guess what age group they're pandering to.
But to group or lump all millennials together as these lazy, entitled, vain individuals that haven't contributed anything to society drives me absolutely insane. And also ignoring the unique obstacles that millennials have to deal with also drives me insane. Look, I'm not playing the tiny violin. This is not a sob story, right? But there are certain economic issues that millennials had to cope with that the generation before them did not have to cope with. That's not saying that baby boomers didn't have struggles. Of course they did, right? But we are among the first generation to be worse off than our parents. And that's because of the economy that was created by baby boomers.
More than half of millennials, 55%, say that they would consider leaving the U.S., and it's because of the economy. Guess who created the economy? Obama. Guess who they voted for?
I know, but there's such a disconnect there. It's just, it's ignorant, right? I mean, I don't know. Who's giving these people degrees? That's a basic thing to figure out. If you don't like it and you're upset about the economy, who's in office? Like, why are you complaining about some, do something, exercise your vote, but they want a handout instead of doing something about it, exercising their vote, being proactive about getting a job, instead of feeling entitled to be handed it to them.
I'm gonna pause again. Subtle differences in reporting, right? Well, the average viewer for the first clip is 28 years old, whereas the average viewer of a Fox News broadcast is 68 years old. That's a big difference. James provides some insight on why the media would spin our generation this way.
Well, honestly, I think a lot of it is probably driven by profits because the negative stories are the ones that sell. And it also kind of plays into this more of like an ideological shift that's taking place because like as we talked about earlier, like I feel like the generation is leaning left and I think the older generations tend to be more conservative. So we've normalized or are normalizing a lot of things that they just have always viewed to be like hella deviant. And because of that, like they believe that leads to the moral corruption of like the generation like we just talked about.
So now the question is, why are older generations so critical? Becca had some insight.
I think that older generations judge our generation mainly because they don't understand the whole technology phase and everything like that, the social media, and I think that they feel as if we're incompetent.
Why?
Because when they were our age, they were doing a lot more than we are doing right now, right? So they were probably like supporting themselves. They were probably like working 5 million jobs. At least I know like my father was doing that as well as going to school. And so I think they look at our generation and they think that we're very lazy.
When I think of the generation above us, I think of people who were born in the 50s. So for them to think that we are lazy is to suggest that they're coming from a group of people who worked consistently and constantly from the age of 18 up. A lot of these people, at least my grandparents and my grandparents' generation, a lot of them either served in the armed forces before they went to college or worked jobs while in college. Not to say that our generation doesn't, but there's a perception that people who are enrolled in college, and at least in this generation, just go to college and get liberal arts degrees and media studies degrees rather than our grandfather, who when he heard that said, "Why aren't you, getting a degree in physics?" My answer was that I was bad at physics, but he generally assumed that if it didn't have technical or practical application, that it wasn't worthwhile.
I think that older generations think that we're regressing in society, that we're taking them back to a time where things were bad and they only get worse. I don't think that they see us as progressive. I think that they see us as the end to humanity. But it's funny because we'll grow up and we'll become old and we'll think the same thing about people who come after us.
And Amy is right. We will judge younger generations. None of this is new. From the beginning of time, older generations have been critical of younger generations. The way we socialize, the music we like, the media we consume, our sex lives, our political views have always been critiqued. As long as young people exist, there will be the older generation looking on, telling us what we could be doing better. So the question is, what will be our legacy? And how can we best guide those who follow us?